So the issue of documentation as part of your estate planning is something that I cannot stress enough. The reason why this is important is because those documents are very critical. They will determine, number one, whether your family can access the wealth you've left behind, and number two, whether or not they will successfully be able to locate the wealth that you have left behind. So you critically need to have a plan on how you're going to shove these documents somewhere, right? So what we're going to talk about is, what are these documents that I say are critical, that you need to put aside, that we need and your family needs in order to access the wealth you've left behind. And number two, what would happen without these documents, or what is the usefulness of actually storing these documents? And number three, what type of storage should you be looking into so that these documents are preserved and they are easily made available to your family when something happens to you? Let's go. For the people that are new here, my name is Yolanda Mnyengeza. I'm an attorney and a director of a law firm. We specialize mainly estate planning and also trust, etc. There's a lot, but that's mainly our focus. So let's get to the details. What are the documents that I say keep them safe so that your family can get access to them when you're no longer there? Number one, with regards to your job, if you have a pension fund, you will have pension fund documentation, which also includes your nomination form. This has to be safe and secured, and we need to get access to it, or your family will need to get access to it, right? They will need to know also what the terms say, etc. So this you must keep safe. Number two, if at work they have a life assurance that they've taken out on you as an employee, or you are paying for that and it's going to be paid when you pass away, that policy documentation, keep it safe. It contains the worth of that policy. It will contain also who the beneficiaries are, the terms and conditions, and how payment will work, etc. And it will also have this unique number that applies to your policy, which is often critical. Okay, and then let's move on to your personal documents. Out of work now, you probably have a life policy. That policy documentation or document you need to keep safe. Again, it has a nominated beneficiary. Listen, what has been happening now is people are finding out that the people that they nominated initially are no longer the ones that are now noted, in the policies that they have, which is something that's concerning. So in addition to you keeping your own documents somewhere safe, you're also going to constantly be checking what's going on with your policy, right? Every year, it's advisable that you check if your nomination is still in accordance, because who knows why this is happening. But critical is that you keep your own set of documents that contains the information that you registered. All right? And then the third thing, funeral policies, they also come with documentation, right? This is also critical. Also includes the policy numbers, who's going to, or the money is going to be paid to, etc. This is critical information. Again, here with funeral policies, what we're seeing is that the beneficiary is listed there. It's either they disappear, or alternatively it ends up being other people that people know nothing about, and everybody is confused why there's a mix-up. So in order to ensure that you have the accurate documents, or your family can get access to the accurate documents, you there will need to keep this set of documents somewhere safe. Listen, I know we don't read these documents, but these documents have a purpose. There's a reason why they are printed out and given to you, because they contain critical terms and conditions. And number two, they contain the information relevant for some of these to be paid out. So this is why it's necessary for you to keep them somewhere safe. Also, if you've taken out a debt or you have a credit, again, you will get a document, guys. and the document also contains the terms and conditions, the term of payment, etc. There's a lot that is contained there. It will also contain things like, does this have a credit life insurance attached to it? That information is contained in that document. So it's necessary for you to store this document and put it away, because it's going to be a necessity for your family. Right? There isn't much that we can do if somebody says something was not there, if we also don't have a document that we can refer to, or your family can refer to. So it's safer for you to keep your actual documents safe. All right. So these are the few documents that I'm thinking about on the top of my head that you critically need to keep in a safe place. But now, why are we keeping these documents? Reason number one, like I said, these documents contain critical terms and conditions. For example, if a claim is rejected when you've passed away, we will know what the terms say and whether that rejection is justifiable on the terms or on the basis of the terms and conditions. Without you knowing what was written down and having access to your own set of documents, you will always, or your family rather, will feel disgruntled. But if they at least have documents that can show how things are meant to be done and what is right and what is wrong in a situation, they can be able to win certain arguments. But if there's no documentation, then it's a problem. Right? So they contain very important information which we don't read, but which could be handy in a case now where there's a dispute with regards to those terms and conditions. Second reason why you're keeping these documents is because you want your family to be able to locate everything that you have. I forgot. The other document that you should also include there is the documentation that you have pertaining to your investments, right? Because reason why this is important, you want them to be able to claim these things. Remember, we don't talk about these things with our family members, and understandably so. People fear a lot of things. They fear advising people that this is what you could be worth if something were to happen to me, because other people tend to think very, let's leave it at that. But there's a reason why people often don't want to talk about those things, right? So at least they should get the documents when you pass away so that they can access all of the things that you've left behind. When they don't have access to the documentation, it's a bit of a nightmare to locate anything you've left behind. And I'll make an example of this. Currently in South Africa, in fact, from what I recall, in 2021, 44.9 billion rand remains unclaimed in pension funds, right? And one of the other reasons why these pension funds are unclaimed is simply because the beneficiaries who have probably lost someone who was working, who had this pension fund, don't know that they can claim a pension fund, that their parent or whoever, was entitled to get a pension fund, and where they need to start searching for this pension fund, there's no information at their disposal. So as much as they may have suspicions, it's a bit of a mystery. Where are they going to start to try and locate this pension? And it is said, right, by the FSCA that at least 40% of these numbers, right, are never going to locate this amount of money, whereas this is an amount of money that could be helpful to your family. Do you see how useful this is to your family and why it's important for you to save this information? Further to this, right, you will see that, or if you investigate, you'll see that in the form of financial assets, there's also billions that remain unclaimed. Why? Because number one, we know you can't have these discussions, and you don't have these discussions because you want to be discreet about the things that you've built or the wealth that you've built, right? But then the issue now is the people you've left behind don't know where everything is that you had. They will try to start, but if the banks that you were using are not the ones which you had these products or services with, Where do you expect them to go? And in some instances, people get stuck because they don't have things like policy numbers, etc. This is why it's critical to have this information, right? And then again, another reason why it is important for these documents to be kept safe and be made available to your family when something happens to you is because of this issue of the disappearing of nomination forms or the changing of beneficiaries. Like I said, people have started discovering, right? And this is something that doesn't start today. They've started discovering that, the people that they nominated initially are no longer the ones that are noted in the current nomination forms that they have, i.e. in the form of pension funds, in the form of life policies. They see different beneficiaries whom they never nominated. And now you can imagine if your family doesn't have access to your actual documents that you had signed initially, how this could sabotage them. So in addition to you checking up on your own policies, etc., it's also critical to have these documents stored away somewhere so that at least we know that the initial information was this. If there's any changes, at least your family has somewhere to start because they have access to the relevant documentation. Because once these are not there, or once these are inaccurate and you are not there, and the initial documents cannot be found, you can rest assured this is going to be an issue for your family. So this is why it is critical to have these documents stored somewhere and to have them readily available for your family to get access to them. Now, what kind of storage can you make use of in this particular instance? Because like we said, we don't want the families to get access to the documents right now because it's not really even necessary at this point, but we do want them to get access to the documentation when we're not there so that they can access the wealth that we have been building or that you have been building. The best storage that you can utilize is a storage that's not going to be in your property. It's not under your bed. It is not under your bed, because if you leave the house, the documents will be exposed by the people who may just go under the bed. It is not in your wardrobe, because now it will mean you will have to lock the bedroom door to your wardrobe, and which will mean that you can never get sick, because if you are sick, they will get access to your bedroom. So it's not ideal for you to keep them this way. So rather, you will keep them in a storage that they can easily get access to the documentation, but they can never see it when you are still alive. And that is what we offer, right? You put them somewhere in a storage, which is a cloud storage that is encrypted. And this particular storage, only you can access, only you can see, right? To any other person, it's going to be difficult for them to get access to this. Now, the nicest thing about this particular storage that I'm talking about is the fact that your family will not need a password to get access to the information. They will not need to figure out probably how to access your emails, because this tends to be difficult. And at most times, it will be a futile process. But this is a cloud storage that is literally managed by people. Now, the storage in itself, the people managing it cannot see the documents, but they will be able to only access them using a death certificate in your name. This death certificate will enable them to, number one, open the storage, collate the documents, and give them to the person who you have listed as a beneficiary. This person then gets access to all of these documents. What they do with them afterwards is their problem, right? So this is the best way I think you could actually store your things. Number one, it's safe right now. Number two, your family can't get access to it right now, but it will be made readily available to your family members when they are not there, and they can go about and claim and be able to easily administer your estate. Don't you think this is a good solution? If you think it is, you do want to consider it when you're doing your estate planning so that everything is easily accessible to your family. We'll talk next time.